Hi, Karen Flaherty from Living by Human Design. Hope you're doing well today. The Human Design weather today is all about the gate 36, which is the gate of crisis and drama. So buckle up. Okay, so we've got the sun in gate 36, which comes off the top of the solar plexus over here on the right side of the body graph. And this, as I said, started yesterday, the 13th, and it goes until late on March 18th. And the Earth is in gate 6, which is also off the right here off the solar plexus. So we've got two emotional gates this week coming together. The gate 36 is called crisis or drama, and the gate 6 is called the warrior or peacemaker. So we've got a lot of emotional energy this week, and it can play out in a lot of different ways. So this week we start out with no centers defined here by the transits, and by Tuesday, the 15th, the channel 1949 gets defined because Venus moved into the gate 19, and then the nodes change. The north and south nodes, which are these little like little horseshoes, they change from the 8 and the 14, which is here and here, coming off the throat and the sacral. They move to the 2343. Now, when they move to the 2343, they create a channel, and it's called the channel of structuring. And the structuring is all about being able to speak in a way that makes sense, usually. We also call it freak to genius. So it can be really important, genius, very individual, very, very specific and very unique kind of stuff that comes from people with the 2343. And then they're able to speak it in a way that people understand it. However, we call it freak to genius because if the timing's not right, it sounds really freaky. And if it sounds correct or brilliant, then that's when it's the genius. So it's all about timing with this channel. And the interesting thing is that this is going to be in until July 30th. So until July 30th, everybody will have a defined ajna, or at least feel like it, and everybody will feel like they have a defined throat, which will be interesting. And they'll be speaking basically what's on their mind. That's how this channel works. So we've actually got a number of gates, I'm just noticing, coming off the solar plexus this week. And so we've got the 36, which is here, and then right next to that is the 22, so that comes back in. So, and we've also got the 22 here, which just happened to move into Jupiter. And so, and then we've got this 19 and 49 connecting up to create definition in both the root and the solar plexus. So, and that goes for about 2 weeks, because once the 19 leaves here, it's also in Venus. It's in both Mercury and Venus for a while. And so, well, for a total of about 2 weeks. So again, this is going to has the potential to be an emotional time. So, so as I said, the gate 36 is called crisis or drama. It's also called the darkening of the light or crisis in the original I Ching. And the reason it's called the darkening of the light is because it's kind of it's definitely the time before the dawn, or the time before things start to look up. And so, take that for what you will, but it obviously turns up in a lot of different situations. And, when it comes to war or peace, there's certainly some dark before there's light. It's also the gate of crisis. These people with the gate 36 tend to be very good in a crisis, very somebody you can depend on in a crisis, somebody that you want to have around in a crisis. And they can tend to be people who like the drama. That's why we call it crisis and drama. If they get too bored, they like change, right? They like things to change up. They like a crisis. They actually like drama in their lives. They like the soap opera aspect of it. And so if they get bored, a lot of times what happens is they actually create the drama in their own lives. And, then people notice. So they call it the rule of cycles, in which decline is a natural but not enduring stage. So it's when the upsets happen, right? It's when all things seem to go to hell in a handbasket. It's that kind of feeling with this gate. In the incarnation crosses this week are the crosses of Eden, crisis, and the plane. And the reason we call it Eden is it's actually the Garden of Eden. These are people who are actually make very great defense attorneys, for example. They're people who want to save the world, right? These are people who want to pitch in whenever they can to help the underdog. And that's where that Eden comes from. The gate 6 is called the warrior or peacemaker. It's also called conflict or friction in the original I Ching. And this they describe as the fundamental design component of progress, the law that growth cannot exist without friction. So that's why they call it conflict or friction. It's because there are a lot of instances, I'm sure, where you've seen that you have a conflict or a confrontation with someone, and then things get better. You have, an upset with your spouse or your child or, your boss, and then things get better. That's the idea. That doesn't always happen, but that's the idea of this gate. And it can just as easily be the warrior personality as it can be the peacemaker personality. John Lennon, for example, had this gate. And in fact, he had the entire channel 59.6 in his chart. So with the gene key 36, the shadow is turbulence, the gift is humanity, and the CD is compassion. And so he says in the graphic, when we meet compassion, we meet God within a human being. So you can imagine that's a long way. The compassion is a long way from the warrior and the conflict, or the conflict and the drama, or the crisis and the drama. But people really do have lives. You probably know some who have lives that are like soap operas. And there's always one drama after another, after another, after another. And the idea here is that the turbulence or the upsets or the confrontations lead to an evolution within those people that, allows for the suffering, yes, once, maybe twice, maybe 3 times, but then they evolve, right? And they move on and they don't need the drama in their lives anymore. I mean, many of my clients are surprised when they have the 36 in their chart because they're like, oh, I'm not, I don't live a drama-filled life. And I said, did you in high school or college? Was that, kind of your MO in college or high school? And they're like, yeah, definitely. And so we basically mature out of that 36. I think a lot of people do mature from the 36 conflict and drama and creating, upsets in your life just for the experience of it. Really, right? All those experiences, yes, are there to help you along and to help you evolve and to help you learn, right? But the suffering can only go on so long. If you're not evolving, then the suffering just begets more suffering, right? Some people literally go from, one upset to another upset to another upset, and it's, illness and financial issues, and then somebody dies, and then something else happens, and you can see them on social media, you can see them in real life, you can see them on television. It's the soap opera, right? And so some people are prone to that, and then some people not so much. I actually took in a lot of energy, a lot of 36 energy as a child. I don't have the 36 in my chart, although, of course, everybody has everything, but I don't consistently have it in my chart. But my, a few people actually in my family had the 36. And so it was a constant drama. And because I was open emotionally, I kind of fed on the drama. I like the emotional uptick, right, of all that kind of turbulence. And so anyway, we can move from turbulence into humanity. And the difference there is that with the turbulence, you're suffering for your own sake of suffering, basically, right? You're internally focused. It's kind of like the belly button, staring at your belly button kind of stuff, versus humanity is where you, yes, have the suffering, yes, have the crises and the drama, but you're also understanding that everybody has these, right? That you're not the only one. In turbulence, you think you're the only one having these issues. In humanity, you understand that, yes, everybody is suffering in the same way that you are from these various crises, and that you can get past it. So it's just the compassion or the humanity to know that everyone suffers from the same things. So why do I need to get upset about it, right? Why do I need to, stomp my foot or have an argument or get upset? Everybody goes through this. It's life. And so you can be more accepting of it and be more understanding of it and get rid of the crisis and the drama to the extent that you can. You can watch it, observe it, and then say, okay, what do I need to do in this situation? And so Richard says one of the greatest determinants of our frequency is how we deal with emotionally challenging situations. So basically, all these emotionally challenging situations that we have, whether they have to do with emotions per se or sexuality, he tends to, add that in. It's the emotions and sexuality that we're having issues with that we don't know how to deal with, right? Especially in the United States, as a culture, we have no idea what to do with sexuality when it comes in our face. And so the idea is that if we can figure out how to react emotionally and sexually in a, as he says, honest and clear way, then we'll all feel a lot better. He also says the deepest role of the 36th gift is to help humans to become human, right? If you're only focused on your own self and you're not focused on others, that's not really the way humanity is supposed to operate. And so much better to think about others and to understand their suffering as well. And he ends up with suffering by design is for only one reason: to crack us open, to reach our innermost recesses and shatter patterns that keep us apart. Because by understanding that everybody's suffering to a certain extent, everybody has something that they're dealing with, and everybody has stuff that they've learned and gone through, then we all understand and can empathize with everybody else. I put these in here. These are some messages for peace that I found on Facebook this week. And I put these in here because, to be honest, I've been feeling a little down and I wasn't even wanting to sit here and do this today, or at least yesterday. But here I am today. And so these are a few things that resonated with me. So I hope they do with you too. These two of them are from Thich Nhat Hanh, who says, "It is not impermanence that makes us suffer. What makes us suffer is wanting things to be permanent when they are not," right? Things are always changing. And so this, again, it's about the acceptance of that. Mahatma Gandhi says, "When I despair, I remember that all through history, the way of truth and love have always won. There have been tyrants and murderers, and for a time, they can seem invincible, but in the end, they always fall. Think of it always," which at least gives some optimism for the war to be ending, or at least to be ending in a way that will hold up peace and love as the victors and not the other. And the last one is, our capacity to make peace with another person and with the world depends very much on our capacity to make peace with ourselves. We are only one little drop in the ocean, but that drop means a lot if we're at peace. And so the more peace you can find, the more you can be the little light that shines and not be the tornado, right? That's full of conflict and drama. That doesn't help the world at this point. It doesn't help us to hide our heads either in the sand. It doesn't help us to be sad or grief-stricken or heartbroken. Any of those things, I mean, those might be happening in your own life, but about the war in Ukraine, it doesn't help the Ukrainians for us to be sad. It doesn't help somebody who has cancer for you to get cancer. That's not the point. The point is for us to be the light, to be as positive and focused as we can be on the real outcome that we want, which for me is peace. And perhaps it is for you too. So we got some personalities born in the Sun Gate 36. These are, as I said, the right angle cross of Eden, crisis, and the plane. And so we've got Albert Einstein, Michael Caine, Kurt Russell, Queen Latifah, Nat King Cole, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Jerry Lewis, quite a few people born in this time, but it's, starting to be springtime and babies are being born, right? And then this week in history, we've got from March 14th to the 18th, we've got, so in 1990, Mikhail Gorbachev became the president of the Soviet Congress. Now this is just before the fall of the Soviet Union. And just before actually the creation of Ukraine, I didn't even realize they're only 30 years old, having a democracy and existing as a country. But in the modern age, they have existed previously as a country. March 15th, in 1991, 4 Los Angeles police were charged with the beating of Rodney King, and that, of course, was unusual. And in 1968, the U.S. Mint halts the practice of buying and selling gold. In 1968, U.S. troops in Vietnam destroyed a village, which became known as the My Lai Massacre. And in 1964, President Johnson submitted a $1 billion war on poverty program to Congress. In 1969, Golda Meir becomes the first female prime minister of Israel. And in 2001, the Eden Project opens in England. It's the world's largest greenhouse. And in 1992, white South Africans approved constitutional reforms giving legal equality to Blacks. So 1992. So that's only been about 30 years also. And in 1970, the Army charges 14 officers with suppression of facts in the My Lai Massacre case. So that was 1968 to 1970. So about 2 years after the My Lai Massacre, 14 officers were charged. And on March 18th, in 1939, Georgia finally ratified the Bill of Rights, 150 years after the birth of the federal government. Connecticut and Massachusetts were the only other states to hold out, but they also ratified the Bill of Rights that year. And in 1965, cosmonaut Alexei Leonov becomes the first man to spacewalk when he exits the space capsule while in orbit around the Earth. So this week, there may be turbulence. There might be more escalation of the war. There might be more conflict. There might be more countries coming into it. We don't know. But in this uncertainty, in these uncertain times, in these turbulent times, please stay as calm as you can. Whatever your spiritual practice is, you might want to double down on it. Whether it's meditation or journaling or walking in nature or whatever makes you feel good. Whatever makes you feel good, it's not a selfish thing. You are actually adding to the consciousness of the world if you can hold the light for as long each day as you can. That light is what's needed in the world right now. And it's up to each and every one of us to do what we can. So have a great week, and I will see you on Friday. Take care.